3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special vehicle for you folks, and it is none other than the 2019 Model 3. However, it is not no ordinary Tesla Model 3. No. This is, in fact, the Performance Edition, which is by far the funnest Model 3 you can buy. Is funnest a word? You know, I'm not really sure, but we're not exactly PC on this channel, as many of you already know. So, this is going to be an in-depth review. We're going to be going over the exterior, the interior, and then, of course, we're going to be going on a spirited drive, because that would be criminal not to drive this thing as intended. This is the first car that I have ever drove with autonomous driving to this degree, and it is pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. Not to discredit Tesla, they do a great job at automated driving. Obviously they're on top of the world right now, but just for me, growing up, being in cars, driving cars, it's a little scary. It's a little unfamiliar. Things that are unfamiliar can be scary. We all know that. And to put my life in the hands of a computer, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. But not to worry, because I will be risking my life for the sake of this video. So, 2 thumbs up. Now, keeping up with traditions, the first thing we're going to be taking a look at is none other than the exterior of this vehicle. And I'm going to be starting off from the side profile. Now, the first thing that catches my eye on this vehicle is the door handles. They are very futuristic, very streamlined, recessed entirely in the door panel itself, and aligned with silver accents. Very nice touch, aesthetically pleasing, but as far as functionality goes, well, I would rather take a traditional door handle 10 out of 10 times. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, how do these doors even open in the first place? Let me show you. Basically, on the right side of the door handle, you push down, and the door slightly pops open a bit, and then you can just continue to push down and the left side of the door handle will pop open, and voila, you can open the door like that. Not very difficult, you may say, but the one thing I have noticed is if you have things in your hand, say your left hand's full, whatever you got in your hand, I don't know, and your right hand is almost full, say you got some keys in there, maybe like a drink or of some sort, and you only have 2 fingers or 1 finger, let's say it's just a pinky you have available to use to open your door. Good luck trying to open a Tesla Model 3 door with just your pinky or 2 fingers. Won't happen. Now, a traditional door handle, easy peasy, especially if you work out your pinky at least 2 times a day, 24/7, like I do. This thing is absolutely ripped, and I challenge Arnold Schwarzenegger right now to have a pinky contest. I don't know what that is, but yeah, DM me, bro. Anyways, let me show you what I'm talking about. So your hands are full, left hand's full, right hand's almost full. You want to open the door with a couple fingers, so you press down with your fingers, and then you run into a sticky situation, because you have to continue to press down on the door to reach the handle. So it's not very functional. If you're one of those people like I am, like in the morning I have a bunch of stuff to grab and I'm like juggling everything trying to get to my car, you know, you might have a hard time opening your Model 3 door. Might have to set some stuff down. So yeah, first world problems. Sorry about that. Now, from there, we have these 20-inch beautiful rims, alloy rims, and they're fitted with the bigger brake calibers, as this is the Performance Edition. So they actually paint the brake calibers red, which which it looks really nice against the 20-inch rims. Definitely adds some aggressive look to the vehicle, but at the same time, they didn't overdo it. Even though, you know, they're 20-inch rims, they got red, big old calibers, it doesn't look too ostentatious. They're still modest about the way they approach the style of the rims, and you know what, I appreciate that, because this is an electric car. It is a practical car. It's not, you know, specifically a sports car or like a Lamborghini or something. That's really not its target market. So Tesla did a good job with the way they manufactured these wheels, and I happen to be really happy with the way they look. Now from there, you notice silver accents all around the cabin. This is actually another camera for the autonomous driving, and just below that camera, in fact, there's two ways to unlock your car if need be, or lock your car. Now, one can be controlled through your smartphone if you are the owner of the Tesla. I, in fact, am not the owner of this car. Wish I was, but unfortunately not. So I don't have access to the app on your phone that can control unlocking and locking of the car and a plethora of other additional features. Unfortunately, I have to use the secondary method, which is, you know, I'm not gonna say it's a little bit weird, but it's a little bit weird. Hold on, let me, hold on, give me a second here. Hold on. Oh yeah, there it is. That is the key that comes to your Tesla. It is a key card, and you know what, it's same size dimensions as a credit card, so it fits nicely in your wallet. You know, I prefer traditional keys, but I can't, you know, help but to feel like an absolute beast of a hipster with a credit card dimensions that unlock my car. I feel like I'm, yeah, a part of the future. So how you want to do that, if you want to unlock or lock your car with this little credit card and not your phone, then you go along right here. There's the camera. Just below that, you put the card right there, and bada bing bada boom, just like that, the car locks. If I want to unlock, the same process. Just put the key right there, key card right there, and you're ready to go. And yes, the card looks pretty nice, I have to say. It's all black with some silver, you know, accents. Looks pretty good. Kind of looks like the new Apple card, just in black. So if you're into fancy looking cards, then Tesla nailed it. I give it about an 8.5 out of 10. Now the last feature on the side of the vehicle I want to touch on is this panoramic roof, which is all glass. It's tinted. Looks really nice inside the cabin. Gives you a little bit more of an open feel, a natural feel, as you can see the skylight and whatnot. Pretty cool. Only gripe I have about that is it doesn't open at all. So, you know, it's all for looks, but that's okay because it gives a really great appearance on the outside since the roof is all black, especially matched up with this pearl white color. Now taking a look at the front of the Model 3, and you got that traditional Tesla look going on. Everything's rounded like a modern day smartphone, very futuristic looking, and you know what, honestly, they do a good job at maintaining somewhat of an aggressive look while being very minimalistic. There's not much angular lines going on like you would see on a BMW M car, but they still do pull off an aggressive look, so I respect that. Definitely looks very futuristic, you know, kind of like a space shuttle. That's what kind of I see when I look at this thing. Even the badge itself, it just looks, as I said many times, futuristic. So the headlights themselves are full LED. The daytime running lights are LED themselves. They look very, very nice while lit up, and they're also very bright. Now the fog lights are also full LED, so yeah, you get a lot of modern things on a very modern vehicle. Surprise, surprise. Now moving around to the back of this vehicle, and we see that the characteristics from the front definitely extend to the back. Everything is very rounded, and it still retains a very minimalist look while having a little bit of sportiness about it, so that's very nice. Now the favorite part of the back end of the vehicle to me is these tail lights. They are tinted and they stand out, especially at night, for a very, very long range. So you know exactly what car you're driving on the road at night. Has a very unique look to them, and just the right size, very proportional with the back end of this car. Now down here, there's nothing really going on besides a little plastic piece for aerodynamics. And yes, there is no exhaust ports. So if you thought there was exhaust ports on this car, well, you've been kind of living under a rock, let me tell you. Now, since we're back here, we might as well take a look at the trunk. There is two trunks to this vehicle. Obviously, the one in the back is far bigger. The one in the front can fit a small size suitcase, maybe a medium size suitcase. However, to pop the trunk, you just look for this handle, the back of the car pops open, and it is the nice, very nice size, I'd say, especially for the dimensions of this car. This car is not too big. It's a Model 3 after all, and not a Model S, so it's shorter and it's less wide. But not to say that the trunk still doesn't have space. I can barely actually reach the back of the trunk, and that is fully extended all the way and kind of leaning in towards the trunk. You can definitely fit at least, I'd say, 3-4 golf bags, no problem whatsoever. Tons of groceries. The opening to the trunk itself is very wide. And you know what? Another great thing, let me move all my camera gear out of the way to show you. Probably should have done this ahead of time, huh? But we do things on the cuffs here in this channel. So, you know, yeah, take note. Anyways, when you move, there's actually a storage compartment under the trunk itself, and you just lift it up and there's an additional storage, and you can actually fit a large suitcase back here. Now, taking a look at the interior of this vehicle, and the first thing you'll realize is just how unique it is in here compared to any other car on the market today. Apart from the window switches, the door release button, and these two knobs on the steering wheel, there is no other buttons in here. Everything is controlled by this giant screen in the center of the dash, and it looks like a giant iPad on 6 different types of steroids, but it is definitely intuitive to use. It is very fast, and it is crystal clear HD quality, so it does not put any type of strain on your eyes. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because we will definitely take an in-depth look at this infotainment system. But for now, I really want to just look at the overall quality and the feel of everything in here. And it is definitely on par with some of the most luxurious vehicles on the road today. You know, there are some hard plastics throughout the cabin, particularly on the bottom of the seat itself. They did cheap out on that part a little bit. And you know what, this little panel, I thought it was leather originally, but it's just this hard plastic. Not a fan of that. If you get this interior in the black leather instead of the white, then this panel is actually this nice wood trim. So I'd much prefer they put the wood trim, like a darker wood, rather than this cheap plastic white looking stuff. But you know what, those are pretty much my only two gripes with the front of this cabin. Everything else is soft touch material and leather pretty much everywhere. I love the two-tone combination going on in this vehicle. Just a beautiful contrast. The seats themselves are so comfortable and supportive. These are 12-way adjustable power seats, and they definitely contour to the likes of my back. Obviously each individual is different, but when it comes to me, I am very comfortable in these seats. They are a little bit more cushiony than the average seat. I know a lot of people would like that. I do too, but you know, I would worry over, you know, the longevity standpoint. The softer the seat is, the more likely it is to just get worn out over time. But as far as these seats are right now, this is a 2019 vehicle. They are very, very comfortable. I could literally fall asleep in these seats. Now, moving on from the seats and taking a look at the steering wheel, we see that it's a 3-spoke steering wheel. It's very sporty, very small in design, and very minimalistic, just like everything else in the cabin. There's these 2 scroll wheels, which are, you know, they're definitely intuitive. They control pretty much everything in the car, because whatever's on the screen is what it's going to control. So they control everything from turning up and down the volume to moving your mirrors, your side mirrors, up and down or left and right. So everything is controlled by these two knobs essentially. Now just behind the steering wheel you get two column stocks. One is for changing through reverse, through drive, neutral is in the middle, and then park is a button on the end of the column stock. So, you know, I forgot to mention that button, my bad, but the show must go on. And moving on to the left side, and this column stock is all for controlling the windshield or the wiper functionality. Pretty basic stuff, and both of these column stocks are aligned in this kind of gunmetal gray metallic looking finish. So it looks really nice. They're very firm, no play to them. Now moving on past the column stocks, and we take a look at the dash, which is of course very minimalistic. The top shelf of this dash is completely flat, and then it kind of has this bottom shelf which has that white material, plasticky material I was talking about a little bit earlier. It's not my favorite. It does look really nice, but once you start feeling it, it does feel a little bit cheap, but it's not bad nonetheless. And then just below that is some silver accents which feel a little bit more premium. You got the white going on, the silver accents, and then the black on top of that. So it's a very unique look, trifecta of colors I should say, and it does look nice. So the dash is kind of somewhat of a shelf system, thanks in part to these very futuristic air vents that you can't control manually by your hands. That's all done via the user interface, the screen in the middle of the dash. Two channels of air are actually hitting each other, and because of that, once you fiddle around in the infotainment system, those channels of air can move in certain ways to direct the air to your desired place amongst the cabin. That is very cool, and again, unlike anything else out there on the market today. Now looking up past the dash, and you're gonna get your sun visors, and they're actually pretty unique as well. I'm not a fan of them at all, but I know a lot of people will, especially you hipsters out there. You know, no, don't take offense, but again, they just feel a little hipster to me, a little trendy, a little fashionable, a little too much for me. I think they're over-engineered in a way, or under-engineered, whatever, however you want to look at it. But you know those little flip cases that you can fit on your iPad, or some phones have them, where there's a little it's just a case that covers the screen and you can flip it out. That's basically what these mirrors have to protect them. These little sun visors have this little material that just flips out, and it's magnetic. So I mean, I guess weight reduction, maybe these weigh like 0.002 ounces lighter than your standard little mirror covers. So maybe Tesla's just looking out for all you purists out there. And then you have these little LED lights. You just press on them, and very intuitive, simple to use. And then the emergency light is actually right here up top. I like the placement of it too. It's out of the way and it's easy to get to. And then just below all that is a mirror that's pretty much all glass. It's bezel-less, and then above that slightly is a little camera that basically monitors the driver, make sure he's paying attention to the road when the self-driving functionality is in play. Okay, now getting to the heart of the interior of this vehicle, and that is none other than, of course, the infotainment system, and it displays everything you could possibly imagine. The navigation is so great in this vehicle, and it has full connectivity to the internet. You can go on Google, do Google searches, go on YouTube, whatever it is, this vehicle can do. Just really think of it like a big iPad. The user interface is very simplistic. It's not as simplistic and user-friendly as, you know, maybe say Apple, but it's right up there. And if you have used a smartphone for a few years now, which I know the majority of us have, then you're gonna hop into this vehicle and the learning curve is gonna be very, very small. Tesla did do a good job in making sure that the system is very fast, very responsive. So starting from the bottom left side of the screen, and the icon that you will see is a picture of a vehicle. You press that and all the functionality of the vehicle will reside in this little tab right here. So there's multiple different menus within this tab. First, you have quick controls, so quick adjustments for your mirrors or the steering wheel to fold in your mirrors, window locks, display brightness, all that good stuff right off the bat. And then you have the driving tab, and basically that just displays a few things that are very important, such as the acceleration, whether you want it in comfort, or as Tesla puts it, chill mode, or you want it in sport mode. You can cycle through those very easy by the press of a button. And then the steering mode, whether it's comfort, standard, or sport. And then regenerative braking is another little feature you can adjust, whether you have it on standard or low. So brake regeneration is basically when the car is coasting, it uses the kinetic energy from the wheels moving to recharge a little bit of the battery. So it's definitely a nice feature. Then down below that, you can have it in track mode, which just basically turns off the stability and traction control. So if you want to bring the Tesla Model 3 to the track, then you can do that. And then there's creep mode. So when creeps engage, the car will, when you're off the gas, it'll traditionally creep forward just like a combustion engine car would. Or you can have it off and the car will just stay where it sits. So if you're off the brake and off the gas, the car will not move at all. I have creep mode on because, you know, I have a traditional vehicle and I'm just used to that. And then slip start is the last category on this tab, and that's basically when you're in snow or whatnot. It just regulates the power to the wheels a little bit better, a little bit more lenient on the way it delivers the power to the wheels. So again, it helps you in the snow. Pretty simplistic. And then you have the Autopilot tab, which you can control all the functionality of your autonomous driving vehicle from here. And there's just multiple things to go over. You have the forward collision warning, whether you want that warning to come in late or medium, early, whatever it is. Or a speed limit warning. You have following length, so when your car is driving itself, you can set between 4 different following lengths. If you want to be closer to the car, it'll do that. If you want to be further back, it'll do that. From this tab, put the car into Sentry mode, so if you're at work or say in a bad area, the car's cameras will be on and it'll be monitoring the vehicle. So if it senses, you know, anything, someone tampering with the car, the cameras are pretty much always on, but it'll kick on and it'll alert you when you get back onto the car that, hey, you know what, someone was around your vehicle and we got them on camera. So it's a really cool safety feature. I think a lot more cars should incorporate this into their system. And the last feature I want to go over in this tab is the cabin overheat protection. So this is a really cool feature. Basically, the car will turn on the AC automatically if the cabin reaches above temperatures of 105. So if you're away from the car entirely, you're at work or you're sleeping in the middle of the day, if you have a night shift, I don't know what you do, the car's AC will kick on. You know, that does take a little bit of battery to use, so you're gonna get a little bit less mileage if it's continuously running the AC when you're not in the car. Now, just to the right of the little car icon is the multimedia icon, and this is very simplistic to use. Again, you swipe up on it and everything is in sight. You have your radio, streaming, you can connect your phone. The radio used in this vehicle for the performance version of the Model 3 has 14 speakers, 1 subwoofer, and 2 amps. So it definitely sounds really, really good. The quality is pretty clear and it does get very loud. It's not the best sounding system out there, but it is definitely pretty close. Now, something that's not self-explanatory is the 2 icons on the far right of the screen, and that's the toy box and the arcade. And the toy box has all kinds of different goodies. Basically, you can turn your GPS into the landscape of Mars, or you can have a fireplace that takes up the whole screen with the crackling sound effects, or if you're feeling a little Christmas vibe, it'll play you a jingle, have Rudolph show up on your screen. There's all kinds of little hidden goodies in this vehicle, and they're gonna just keep updating them and adding new ones, so it's really cool to see. And then obviously the far right little tab is arcade, and you have a few games to play. There's about 7 or 8 games that you can play. They're all really cool. So moving on from that icon, and then it gets a lot more simplistic and a lot less in-depth, and you have your heated seat functionality, which displays on the icon basically in the middle bottom of the screen. There is no ventilated seat options for the Model 3, so that is kind of a bummer, but it isn't a deal breaker. And then you have the fan icon, which obviously is for your climate controls. Everything is pretty standard and user-friendly, besides adjusting the direction of where the air comes out, which is really cool. So basically, you can either have it to where you press with one finger where you want the AC to come out, and you just drag along this little image on the screen, or you can do 2 fingers if you want the air to come out in 2 separate locations. Now, as far as leg space and head space in this vehicle, and it's definitely ample. I have the seating position in a comfortable setup for me, and the seat goes so far back. Unless you're like over 6'7", I don't think you would have any problem with the leg space, and same can be said with the head space in this vehicle as well. I have the seat at its lowest position. I'm about 5'10", and I still have 6-7 inches of head space, so plenty of room. And the cabin is definitely feels very open and airy thanks to this minimalistic design. Now, taking a quick look at the back of the interior, and it's obviously very minimalistic as well back here. The seats sit you up at a nice angle. It's a sporty angle. You know, I still have ample leg space, a good like 2.5-3 inches from my driving position, which is pretty far back. So happy to report that even if you're 6'1" and under, you're still gonna be pretty comfortable back here in terms of leg space. And you know what, headroom, I have about 2 inches, maybe 2.5 inches at maximum. So headroom is a little bit cramped. The roof does kind of slope back a tiny bit in the Model 3, but again, if you're 6'1", 6'2" and under, you should be fine still. Especially if you don't keep a very upright posture. Now, I love that they still have the 2-tone color scheme going on the door panels themselves. The white mixed with the black looks very, very nice. There's also 2 air vents, as you would expect back here, with 2 USB ports. Okay, now getting this Tesla Model 3 Performance Edition out onto the road, and the first thing that strikes me coming from my loud M235 is obviously the silence in the cabin. This is an electric engine, so it doesn't make any noise really at all, and it's definitely a different experience. Now, as I'm driving on this road, I have this vehicle in the most sportiest settings. The steering is in its sportiest setting, as well as the throttle response, and this is a relatively smooth road. The ride quality is definitely nice. The steering, right off the bat, compared to my M235, it's not as sharp, it's not as responsive. BMW has a great electronic steering rack. This is not subpar at all, but it's just not quite as good as my BMW M235 per se. But it is very, very good nonetheless. The steering is definitely pretty heavy when you put it in its most sportiest setting, which I really, really like. It's a throwback to the old school hydraulic steering. Not too old school, but old school enough. So now, as far as the ride comfort, I'm on some canyon roads right now, and there is a little bit of bumps, but nothing too big. Again, the roads are in pretty good condition, and
You know what? The cabin is insulated relatively well. There is some tire noise, but you know, these are the performance tires, so they are going to make a little bit more noise than your standard eco-friendly tires, but nothing unbearable by any stretch of the imagination. The wind noise is pretty minute as well, and again, you don't have an engine noise. As far as handling, I'm not going too fast along these canyon roads. There's a very slow car in front of me, unfortunately, but we're carrying a little bit of speed, and the car is very planted thanks to all that mass weight of the batteries being down below on the floor right in the middle of the car. The car feels very neutral in the way it handles, and this performance version has a little bit lower suspension, so there's no real body roll at all. There's just a little bit if I really want to turn the car sharp, but you really have to try to create body roll with this car or be going at a very excessive amount of speed to get any real body roll with the performance edition of this Model 3. And I like that so much because no body roll is just more confidence inspiring for me, especially if I was to take this on the track or the back roads. You know, I want something that feels very, very planted and doesn't feel like I'm piloting like a sailboat or something and it's rocking back and forth. That's not good on the road when you're taking corners at an excessive amount of speed. That's quite scary, I have to say. Now, as soon as I can get around this car, I'm definitely going to test out, you know, some of the acceleration. That's what this car is all about. This is the performance model. And the performance model of this vehicle does 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, which is extremely fast. That's faster than an F80 M3, M4, which is pretty ridiculous to say the least. And, you know, if you wanted to get the long range version of this, which is the step down, it's still 5.2. It's actually 4.4 seconds 0 to 60, which is very fast. That's very comparable to my M235. If you want the standard version, then it goes to 5.2 seconds 0 to 60, which again, that's still pretty quick. Definitely not the fastest, but in terms of, you know, normal cars out there, you're gonna be a bucket load faster than, you know, say your average Toyota Camry or whatnot. Okay. All right. Here's a little intersection in the road. Whichever way you're going is the way I'm not going. Okay, so that guy kind of bugged off, and now I'm gonna give this thing a little bit of acceleration. And when I mean a little bit, I mean, let's see what this puppy can do. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Yes, it pulls really, really well. It's the initial 30 miles an hour, reaching 30 miles an hour is what really just lights your hair on fire. It is just undescribable. It's like a roller coaster, just getting the beginning of a very fast roller coaster, just getting hoisted up there immediately. The power is immediate because obviously this is an electric motor, meaning that the torque is instantaneous, and it really feels very, very fast. All right, guys, well, I'm gonna come to a complete stop and give this car all she's got one more time. Let's see how it goes. You hear those electric motors working? Man, it just bolts. It just bolts. You know, after you get past 30, 40 miles an hour, then it kind of dies out a little bit. It still pulls very, very hard. But I say it maybe pulls just a tad bit harder, if not even as hard as, you know, my M235 with my tune and whatnot. While I'm driving, I'm getting the little symbol that says, hey, if you want to have automated driving on, so be it. Just press 2 times down on the column stock, the right column stock, and the car will drive itself for you. It's just a surreal experience where you can have such a great time on the canyon roads, have fun, and it feels pretty true to a real sports car. But then at the same time, in a blink of an eye, you can press 2 times down on the right column stock and the car will drive itself. Look, Ma, no hands. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. How does that not grow on you? You're in the morning, there's traffic, you're groggy, you don't really want to drive, the stop and go traffic's killing you, you just 2 times down on the column stick, and there you go. It's doing it all the work for you. You can just think about how you're gonna hate work, hate the day. And a very cool feature is the guidance lines. It shows objects, you know, big and small, whether it be a motorcycle or a diesel truck, and it shows them pretty true to size. So if there's another person on the road, I can see their vehicle, I can actually see them coming up from behind. So it acts almost as a blind spot monitoring system as well. Oh man, see that? Moments like that, when there's oncoming traffic and it's a sharp turn, those are the moments that really scare me. In a setting like this, canyon roads, I strongly suggest just hovering over the brake, hovering over the steering wheel, you know. See, it's on far into the left side. It actually kind of went into the left lane right there. It's not something you want to see. Okay guys, well, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe it was just for the entertainment aspect of it. As far as what I think about this car, it is a very, very unique car, and it is definitely worth this price point. You get a lot of car for the money. As far as technology goes, you really can't beat it. It sits like right up there at the top of everything. It is you know, the pinnacle, especially in terms of self-driving or autonomous driving, I should say. And you know, that whole experience with this car driving itself, for me, it was my first time. It was a surreal experience, a very exciting experience, and a very scary experience. I would highly recommend you not take your eyes off the road at any point in time with this automation or automatic driving. You know, it's still in a beta phase, and there's still little nuances that happen, especially on roads with a lot of turns, that just are too close for comfort. You know, you also have to worry about other drivers on the road, and this thing gets so close to the opposing lane. You know, if another driver's not paying attention and they get very close to the opposing lane, then you guys are hitting each other, whether it be, you know, nicking your mirrors or full-on sideswiping each other. You know, it doesn't matter. It's still a scary experience, and you don't want to crash your new Tesla. So I'd really just keep in mind keeping your eyes on the road at all times, and never fully trusting the system. No matter how much you want to, no matter how comfortable you get with it, it's just the technology is not there yet. As far as the driving dynamics, it is very good. It's on par with my M235 in a lot of ways in terms of handling. It's actually better, I'd say, because it has less body roll. Even though I have, you know, KW coilovers, it still has just a low center of gravity thanks to all those batteries being in the center of the vehicle, and it handles remarkably well. The acceleration is faster than a BMW F80 M3 or M4, and it puts a big smile on your face when you get down on the accelerator. Especially when you're under 60 miles an hour, it is a surreal experience thanks to having no sound and that immediate torque from the electric dual motors. And you know what? At the same time, it's a very practical car. It's very comfortable in here. You get all the amenities you could ever ask for. The trunk is very spacious, and then there's a secondary trunk that could hold a medium-sized suitcase. And you know, there's a lot of good storage compartments in here. All the materials are very premium. Just overall, you know, this car is the best of both worlds, from a performance standpoint, a technological standpoint, and a practicality and ride comfort standpoint. It just ticks the boxes. It really is the jack of all trades. And you know what, for the price point, it's hard to get. You really can't get a car that comes with everything that the Model 3 has. Now, there is cars for the price point that are better in certain categories, but as far as doing it all, you know, this is up there. This is I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that trumps this. So very, very pleased with the Model 3. Elon Musk, keep doing your thing, man, and keep updating the system. It's pretty cool to see how far it's come in such a short amount of time. And yeah, it's a great time to be alive, a great time to be a car enthusiast. Well, yeah, that's all I have to say. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.